She has a sweet anointing on her life, but she is pure and sharp in what she knows. So my prayer is that you would open your ears and in this way hear what thus saith the Lord for your lives. Would you receive Mrs. Tiffany P. Henderson as she comes down? God bless you, Tiffany. Those are some big shoes to fill, Who is that? Thank you so much for that warm introduction. First, I always want to just thank God. Thank God for the assignment that He's given me that allows me to be fulfilled in the work that I do and to help others to find that same fulfillment. So I thank God first. And I want to thank Pastor Am, who I know is Amorous. So Amorous and I know some of you may have known her longer than I have, but Amorous and I have been knowing each other since high school. And one of the things that 35, Ron Eagles, and one of the things that I've always really admired about Amorous, and I just shared it with her recently, is that Amorous has always been one who knew who she was. Like even when we were in high school, 14, 15, 16 years old, when you're struggling to know your identity and what you stand for and what you're about, and she was always secure in who she was. And the person that you see today is the very same person that she was back then. You knew who and whose she was, right? It's not that she ran down the hall with her sign saying, "I'm a Christian," but she wore it. And I always admired that about her. So I just want to thank you for standing in your truth, for being who you are. Because I don't know that you truly see how much people were watching you when you didn't know it. I know I was. So I thank you for that. So I will be honest with y'all. I'm going to try to do this without crying. I cry all the time. And the story that I'm going to share with you is a very, very emotional story for me. Very, very touching. And it really happened it started maybe 10 years ago, but it feels like it was just yesterday. So I just kind of want you to bear with me. And I'm excited because I feel a lot of love in the room. So I feel like I can be a little nervous, but that you'll love me through it. Right? So before I get started, I just kind of want to know who I'm talking to in the room, just so that I can make sure that I'm giving you what you came for. Is that all right? Okay. So how many business owners do we have in the room? How many individuals own their own businesses? Okay, great. All right. And then how many aspiring business owners do we have? Okay. And then how many folks are maybe servant leaders on your job? So you're working for someone, but you feel very purposeful in the work that you're doing, and you're on task, on assignment. Great. Awesome, awesome. So that helps. That helps to give me some context. Now here's the other question I want to ask that you might not feel comfortable to answer in this setting. And that's okay. But the question is, how many of you know the purpose and the assignment that God has placed on your life? How many of you know that you know that you know that you know? Awesome. That's a lot of people. Yeah. Now, how many of you are operating in it? You're functioning in it? A few hesitant hands. Good. We're going to have a good discussion today. All right. Good discussion. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story because I've fallen into both of those categories, right? I've been in a place where I thought I knew what God wanted me to do. I thought I understood the assignment that He had for me. I even thought I was walking in it until I looked in the mirror one day and realized I didn't even recognize myself, right? And it was at that point that I said, you know what, something has to change. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story. And then I'll give you a little bit more information. So I am a career coach and strategist. But before all of this took place, There was a life before this. This is the afterlife. This is the PK, right? Like the post-Katrina, you know how people from New Orleans, we have our BK and then our PK. This is like the afterlife. This is after. This is PK. And so about 10 years ago, we'll start with 2004. I graduated from LSU. I had a degree in finance, right? And I remember the moment that I graduated, it was a very proud moment in my family. Because I was the first in my family to graduate from college. Thank you. And so that was a really big deal in my family. Because the perception was that if you're going to, I got you through 12 years of school, and then I got you through your college degree, and so now you got to go out and get a job. You got to go out and make money. You got to get a good 401k, right? That's the expectation. And so I did that. When I graduated, I had a letter that said, you have a job. The letter said that they were paying me $48,000 a year right out of college. And this was in 2004. And I was 22 years old, right? And it was in Miami, y'all. In Miami. Beautiful Miami. And I had never lived anywhere else outside of Baton Rouge because I went to LSU. And so right after graduation, 2 weeks later, I packed up everything that could fit into my little Civic, and I drove all the way to Miami to start my new life where I knew no one, right? And I started this position working for this very prestigious company. Like if you graduate in business with a degree in accounting or finance, you want to work for one of the big 4 accounting firms, right? And so that's what I did. And when I tell you it was phenomenal, it was amazing. It was everything that I thought it would be. But then I started to realize, I'm like, wait a minute. I found myself changing. I found myself looking in the mirror and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Because what I realized is that everyone around me was a different culture. And I felt like I had to be like them if I wanted to make it. Quitting was not an option because my mom had prepared me for this very moment, right? If you think about it, when you think about what you're preparing your children for, it's so that they can go out on their own and be self-sufficient, right? And not have to depend on you. So I couldn't be in this position, have this amazing job, and then say, you know what? This ain't me. No, I had to make some adjustments. And so what I found is that those adjustments didn't look too good. Because what it meant is that I'm sitting at the table with people laughing at jokes that I don't think is funny. Right? You know? I'm doing things that aren't even it's not even me. I'm talking in a way that I don't talk. I'm not saying not speaking correct English. That's not my point. Right? But I'm finding that I'm changing the very essence of who I am. And after a while, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? So you know what I did? I said, you know what? This is a global company. I'm just going to transfer. I'm going to transfer to Chicago, get a new start, be around a few more black folks, and then I'm going to find myself again. Right? So I did that. I transferred within the same company. And they said, you know what? They looked at my salary and they said, you know what? We don't make that here. And I was like, okay. And they said, we're going to need to bump your salary up about $20,000. And I said, no problem. I'll take it, right? And they said, there's a few other things that we do differently here. And I said, okay, what is that? Because, you know, there's always strings. And so they said, well, we travel. We travel a lot here. A lot of our clients are elsewhere. They're in other parts of the nation and other parts of the world. So you're going to have to travel a lot. So I said, okay, I'm not married, don't have any kids, don't have anything holding me back. Fine, I'll travel, I'll see the world. Y'all paying for it though, right? Let me just make sure about that, because you just gave me this $20,000 bump. Let's make sure it's not coming out of that. And so they said, no, we got you covered. We'll take care of all of that. And I said, okay, cool. Sign me up. I'll take that position. And so I got there, y'all, and I started traveling. And what I was doing, and I'm sure you may be wondering, what is that work that you were doing that they were willing to pay you all of that? You're only 22, 23 years old to do this. And what it was is that I would go into businesses and I would help them make their operations, how they do business, more efficient. So that it wouldn't take as much money to do everything they needed to do, right? And these are major businesses, like Fortune 100 businesses. And so when I traveled, I would get on a plane, and we're not talking about Delta, Southwest, no, like these are private charter flights. Wow. That's the type of experience it was. So there was few of me, right? Not just black women, not just black, but women. Right. Few. And so it was an adjustment. But again, $20,000 more, right? Traveling, don't have to pay for it, sign me up. And so one of the things I want you to know, because I really want to paint this picture for you. When you travel, what are some of your basic needs? I think we can I want y'all to talk back to me. What are some of your basic needs, your basic necessities that you might spend your money on? Food, housing, transportation. Top three. They covered all three, right? So they're paying for your meals, they're paying for your rental car, and they even pay for your corporate apartment. So you have this nice check, and you have all of these amenities. So where you don't even have to spend your money, right? But one of the things I realized is, wait a minute. Oh yes, there is some ownership. You are most certainly correct. Yes, you can't have a job outside of this job. Yes, it comes with a price. But one of the things I realized, and I brought this little raggedy journal up here because I wanted to share. This is my journal from 10 years ago, 2007, right? And I just wanted to share a little excerpt with you because to see how far God has brought me. How far He's brought me. And I just want y'all to bear with me. So I'm going to read this as best I can. So this is August 11th, 2007. And it says, Lord, please help to cleanse my spirit of this unhappiness, of this loneliness, of this grief that I feel constantly these days. I really don't know who I am anymore. And sometimes it makes me want to crawl into a corner and fade into the wallpaper. It's so frustrating because I feel like I've lost my home. Not in a physical sense, but spiritually and emotionally. I've lost or am no longer in touch with who I am, with my interests, with my thoughts, with my opinions. Thank you. With what I believe. I said I wasn't going to do this, y'all. Oh. I said sometimes I think if I just move away, move closer to people that really love me, then maybe I'll find home again. But my fear is I'll uproot myself yet again, because like I told you, I went from Miami to Chicago. I'll uproot myself yet again in search of something that wasn't in Miami, that wasn't in Chicago, and it wasn't even in New Orleans. Something that I was and am supposed to find within me. Yes. That relocating to another city cannot change. Most of the time, I just want to stop everything and live as free as a bird. I know life does not come without trials. But I'd like to see more happy days. I'm going to stop there. My tears is not sadness. It's really because of what happened after this. And that's what I want you to get. I know there's some folks in this room that you came here and you may not want to admit it, but you're stuck somewhere. You're frustrated somewhere, and it may be in your career, and it may be in your business. You may not be getting the results that you really want. But believe it or not, it's an inside job. So you may want your check to change, right? But believe it or not, even if that check changes, if you don't address the inside, you would have that big old check. I'm a testament to it. And it not mean a thing. Right? And so, of course, I'm off script. Of course, I'm off script. But what I really wanted you to understand, and we're going to keep going, but what I really want you to get, and it's something that I discovered even in working with my clients, is to really think about what it is you're lacking on the inside before you make any external changes. Right? So think about those things that you think you want. The promotion, the lucrative business, the $1 million check. And then think about what the true motivation behind that is. Where is it rooted in? And if you don't dig this thing up from the root, you might get there, but at what cost? There's a theme that I've seen, and I don't have time to share all of them, but with every client that I work with, and even in my experience, people that are stuck, whether they're stuck in their careers or whether they're stuck in their businesses, they're not getting the outcomes they want, they feel like they put all this work in and they're still not seeing the fruit of their labor. There's a theme that I've seen in these situations. And I'm going to sum it up in 3 areas. The first thing that I've seen, the first challenge that I think that we have is we have a mind, a body, and spirit disconnect. Right? Because again, we're trying to deal with the symptoms and not the real cause. We say, I want a higher check, so I got to just work really hard. Right? We say, I want to get into these doors, so I got to schmooze with these people, when really it's an inside job. One of the things that I realized, and I'm just realizing I didn't finish telling y'all the rest of the story, the overcoming part. But we're going to keep going. Maybe I'll save that for the end. So there's a mind-body-spirit disconnect oftentimes, right? And so one of the things I realized, and I guess I can tell you now, I realized that my mind was giving me all of this toxic stuff, and I was just taking it. And so as believers, we know that, what does the Bible say? It says, bring every thought into captivity. Don't allow your thoughts to hold you captive. Right? And that's exactly what I was doing. If I thought it, then it must be true. I never challenged my thought. Never. And so all of these negative thoughts that I was feeding myself about how you're not enough, you really don't deserve to be in the room with all these smart people. Who let you in the back door? Somebody's going to discover you, find you out, and kick you out. Right? And then you have these thoughts, and you rehearse these thoughts over and over and over, and you think, well, surely if I could just make a little bit more money, these thoughts will go away. These toxic thoughts. And then, in addition to those thoughts, my body was messed up. So like I told y'all, I was traveling 100%. And when you travel, your food is free. and I like free, and I like food. So I was eating a lot of stuff, and the pounds reflected it. So my body was out of whack, my mind was out of whack, and then ultimately my spirit was out of whack. And if I could just be honest with y'all, depending on the day, I would tell you, I don't know who Jesus is. He's just a man. That's my truth. Don't judge me. That's my truth. He's just a man. There's nothing miraculous about that. Right? That was my truth. And even God, I don't know who God is. That's too ambiguous. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't believe. And I just don't feel it today. I don't feel it today. So my mind was out of whack. My body was out of whack. And my spirit was out of whack. And I had to restore all of those things. And so you might be asking, okay, well, how did you restore it? When you have your mind out of whack, your body out of whack, your spirit out of whack. Clearly, I see why you had this whole breakdown. It totally makes sense. But how did you restore it? I will tell you no lie, and I talked to Amherst about this as well. In May of 2010, I said, this is enough. I said, I'm tired of complaining about being in this situation. I'm tired of constantly telling people, oh, you don't hate your job? I hate my job. When you leaving? I don't know. I need this check right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tired of running that same story. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of it. And so by January of 2010, I said I have to make a change. And I didn't know about this system. All I knew is I knew the areas that were out of whack. And I would have my moments where I would say, God, you got to change things. You got to deliver me. But I wasn't doing nothing about it. I would check in and check out when I felt like it. Some days I believe God, some days I don't. And so what I ended up doing, y'all, and I really don't want you to miss this, is I did a fast. And I know some of you might be thinking, oh, I know I'm familiar with a fast. I've done it before. That's cool. I don't know if you did a fast like I did a fast. My fast was not just not eating stuff. Because like I said, my whole system was broken. So I couldn't afford to just take ice cream out my diet. I was too broken for that. Right? So I needed to start to rebuild my system. And I started with my spirit. And so one of the first things I did, and I was traveling 100%, I said, God, you know, I know that I haven't been in church. I don't even know what church to go to. I don't even know where to go, but I'm going to be in somebody's church every Sunday. That's just the commitment I'm making. No matter how tired I am, whether I just got off the plane or not, I'm going to be in somebody's church on Sunday. And that was the commitment I made. I called it a fast. You might call it something different. But it was a commitment that I was making to God. And then I would add to that. So once I felt stronger in that area, then I would add on top of that. And I said, okay, God, now we're going to wake up every morning at 5 o'clock. Now, if you're anything like me, sleep is so precious. It's one of the best, the most beautiful gifts I believe God has given us. Okay? And so to sacrifice my sleep is to show God, oh, she's really serious. That's what it was. So I would wake up every morning, either 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and I would sit with that Bible, sometimes be nodding off and falling asleep, but I was there. I was present. Because my commitment was to show him that I was serious. I know I didn't talk about it in the past, but let me show you the life changes I'm making, so you know how serious I am. And so then I added on top of that, now we got to get this body in order. Because that's out of whack. Because this food is free. And it tastes good. And so then I started to implement changes in my eating and in my exercise. I would work out at least 5 days a week. I only ate 2,000 calories a day. I'm 5 feet tall. That was enough for me. Again, this is me. That's a lot. Is it a lot? It didn't feel like it at the time. Right? And if I ate more than the 2,000, then that's how many calories I would work off on the treadmill. Wow. So I was sickly looking. But I was healthy on the inside, so it didn't really matter. And so then on top of that, one of the things I begin to do is I begin to just sit with God in the morning.
All right.
And sometimes we're so busy, our lives are so busy, we're moving so much that we don't give God time. Right? We're moving from one place to another. We're constantly going to work, picking up the kids, bringing the kids where they got to go, doing this for your husband and all this kind of stuff. A lot of times you're deprived. And then God is saying, what about me? And so what I started doing is I wouldn't just pray or I wouldn't just read the Bible, but I would just sit and listen. Just sit in complete silence and listen, whether I heard anything or not, to give him that consistency to listen. And I would say by March, so this whole thing started in January. By March, I remember sitting on the floor in my Chicago apartment. And I remember this, I can't say it was an audible voice, but it was this really strong feeling that said, you need to go back home. And I said, okay, God, we've been waiting on this one. So, you know, there's no fighting back. I had already raised saved $40,000. So I had $40,000 in the bank because I never knew what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to need money. So I was just stacking until I heard God's voice and that told me to move. And so by March, I'm sitting on the floor, my Chicago apartment, and he finally says, you got to go back home. And I said, cool, no objections here. So I told everybody at work, I'm like, yes, God told me to go back home. And not only did he tell me to go back home, but he told me that there are young people specifically, that they're struggling with who they are. They're struggling to figure out what they have to give to this world, what their purpose is, what their assignment is. Because as much as we want our education systems to cover it, they can't do everything. Right? And so I made a commitment. I said, you know what? That's what I need to do. I need to go home and I need to help people young people discover what their purpose is. Not just a job so you can collect a check, but what is your purpose? What is God trying to do through your life? And so so I went to work and told the partners. I was so excited. I'm like, yes, God told me that I need to go to New Orleans and start this nonprofit, and I'm so excited. And they said, you what? You leaving. Who told you that was a good idea? And I remember one woman in particular. She was a black woman, had made it up the Heights partner. I really, really respected her. And so we sat down one-on-one, and I'm telling her, this was like, God told me this, right? And I'm thinking like she's going to be so excited for me because finally I know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Like I finally know. And the first thing she said to me is, well, Tiffany, you know, how much did you seek internally before you made this decision? And I was like, well, I just told you that I talked to God. Like, did you miss it? That was the inside check, you know, did you miss it? And she said, well, no, you know, like within the company, how much did you search within the company before you decided to leave the company? And I was like, oh, thank you, God. I made the right decision. All it was confirmation. That's right. Thank you, God, that I made the right decision. Because if it was a few months prior, she would have been like the voice of God to me. Right? Because she was like my boss. I looked up to her. And I relied on her and her opinions to determine what trajectory my career would take. But when she said that, I'm like, God, who have I been following? And had I have continued on this path, who knows where that path would have led? That's right. And so I'm just encouraging you. And so the rest of that story is really just that I moved here. I'm here. Yeah. I've been here since 2010. Started my organization, My Passion Breeds Life, working with young people, high school and college, helping them to discover what their true purpose is. Yes. Right? Amazing. Beautiful story. There's so much more to it. But I don't have the time. Let me give you the second part. So I told you that there's 3 things, right? When I speak to my clients and even within myself, there's 3 commonalities or 3 areas that are usually an issue that causes people to be stuck. So we talked about the mind, body, spirit disconnect, right? The second thing is living your truth. Living your truth. Be honest with yourself and determine how much do I put that mask on, because I don't want people to know who I really am. And I might not even be able to sit with who I really am if we're just being honest. And so I realized that, you know what? I need to be honest about who I am. I need to be authentic with myself. And no matter who I'm sitting at the table with, no matter who I'm having lunch with, they have to get the truth. They have to get who I am. I'm a black woman. You may not understand my experience. You may not understand my upbringing. You may have grown up with a silver spoon in your mouth, and that's fine. But this is who I am. And so live your truth. And a part of living your truth is challenging your assumptions. There are some things that you assume about yourself, and based on those assumptions, that's how you live. So some of you assume that, you know what, I can't get ahead because I don't have a degree. I want to challenge that. I can't be happy because I don't have a degree. I can't be happy because I got too many kids and have too many responsibilities. I had a degree, didn't have any kids, still wasn't happy. So I'm going to let you work that out within yourself. The last point that I want to make is there's an element of this that just requires you to surrender. Just to surrender your will. One of the things I realized is I wasn't surrendering. I kept doing things my way and asking for God to bless it. God, put your stamp on it. I know I ain't living right. I know I ain't trying, but I'm begging right now. I'm complaining enough. Don't you hear me? And God kept telling me, don't ask me to put a stamp on something that I had no part in. And so my challenge to you is just to surrender your will, especially for those people that you're doing the right things, right? You started that business just like God told you to. You went after that promotion just like God told you to. You're working hard, you're busting your butt, you're doing everything that you know to do, and you're still not getting the outcomes that you want. Surrender. Because there's a part of this that you're not supposed to be in control of. That's right. That's right. Right? That's right. You're not 100% in charge. God is. That's right. And there's a part of this that requires you to die. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yes. To your flesh. That's it. And so sometimes God doesn't bring the promise immediately because there has to be more of a dying. Yes. Before I can get you there. One of the criticisms, and I know I only got a few more minutes, I'm wrapping up, but one of the criticisms that I got when I stepped out and was going through some tough times, and I heard someone say through someone else, she thought she heard God. Look where she is now. And she says she heard God. And it hit me for a second. Because sometimes when you're already weak, and then you get that hit when you're already weak. It's one thing to be strong, but when you're already weak and you get that hit, it's like, oh, ouch. I don't know that I can take it. And so I begin to question myself, God, did I really hear you? Because surely I'd be further along than this. And one of the things I realized is, wait a minute, Tiffany, obedience comes at a cost. I know the world wants you to think that if I do X, Y, Z, then I'm just going to be a millionaire tomorrow. And then you start to measure up your life according to those expectations, and you will fall short because that is not God's design. His design is for you to serve his people first.
That's right.
It's not about you. It's about him and his people.
That's right.
And so when we make it about us, when we try to be millionaires for us, that's where we get it all wrong.
That's right.
You got to surrender. There's a death, and then there's a resurrection.
Yes.
So I'm going to end, because I know that I'm over on time, but I just wanted to do two things today. One is, there is a group on Facebook. It's called Purpose Launchers. There's a few Purpose Launchers in the audience. And all I wanted to do is just to create a community of purpose-driven, purpose-minded people. People that are pursuing careers and businesses, not just for their own personal gain, but because there's a mission, there's a vision that God has for them that is bigger than them. So that's what this group of people is. And I would love for you to join. I'm going to pass around these cards. Yeah, thank you. And it has how you can link to Purpose Launchers, so that you can have a community of people that you're doing this thing with, this purpose journey with. And then the second thing that I want to do is I just want to say, for some of you, you may say, wow, that's great, but I know I can't do this by myself. Right? I need some help to get back on my journey. And to that, I want to say I'm here to help. So you have my website also, which is tiffanyphenderson.com. And the work that we do is really not to address the symptoms, but to address the root cause.
That's good. That's real good.
Right? That's what this is about. It's about helping that mind, body, spirit connection. It's about helping you to live your truth, and it's about helping you to surrender before we start creating business plans. Because that may not be the right solution if you're not clear about what God's vision is. So I just want to thank y'all so much for having me. Thank you for giving me your time and extra time. I so appreciate it, and I hope y'all have a blessed day.
Can we give a so graceful salute to Tiffany? Hallelujah.